Okay, I'm going to now show you in this video my 3D project using DirectX11, programmed in Microsoft Visual Studio 2010, using C++, and also programmed using shaders. DirectX11. Let's dive straight in. This video is to hopefully prove my ability to program 3D worlds, 3D games, 3D environments. So as this loads up, we shall hopefully see some of that. I have a little list in front of me of the things that I want to show and explain, so I hope this video is kind of smooth and I'll keep it as short as I possibly can. So, straight away, first of all, let's talk about the first-person camera. We are entered into this little world, nothing interesting, just very simple. We've got obviously lights, as we can, lighting system going on. We've got models consisting of simple cubes to something as complex as a skull, and these are objects in vectors, the vector file format. The first-person camera is controlled obviously by the sort of standard gamer input, WAS and D keys, and the mouse to control the viewport's viewing direction. Next up, the objects themselves. As I said, they're vector files, but these have been texture mapped. These have been normal mapped, so let me get a nice little, in fact the back shows it quite well. Normal map is obviously it's like an arrow pointing out the texture to show in which direction light would bounce off if it was hitting it. We can see that quite nicely here. The lighting looks a little bit weird from this angle. Anyway, it's sort of to provide the illusion of three-dimensional rough surfaces when realistically we can see on the side of this it's a very, very primitive cube. Off we go into the next bit. We have this little blue tidbit here, which is a lighting source, a point lighting source. So if I activate that by pressing something on the keyboard, we can move him around. It's another one of the lighting systems which is programmed inside the shader itself, which is kind of nice. So all the processing is done on the graphics card. We can see on the floor, this is the next bit, I wanted to come to this later, but why not hit it now? You can see Parallax Mapping has been programmed into the shader as well, which again gives that extra visual illusion or lie almost of 3 dimensions, and I can tweak one of the factors, one of the values, just to sort of show you that it is parallax mapping, and just to sort of, you know, mess around with the view of it. Whereas this is actually, as I said before, a completely flat plane with a texture, flat texture, but again normal mapped and parallax mapped to give it that pebbly look and like that really cool, like, look at that, that's really cool. It's like I'm walking on a pebble ground. It should hurt. Anyway, we have our spotlight, we have our point light, as I explained before. We have what I call the flashlight. I guess most people would call it that, but it's basically a directional light source, and I've attached it to the first-person camera. So, for example, you think of it like a you know, maybe a horror survival game, walking around a haunted mansion with a flashlight. It's kind of cool. We have all the sort of boring basic stuff where I can edit the diffuse of the light, the colour of the light. You can see the rooms going all crazy with different colours. V to snap back to change, and I can mess with the ambient of the light source as well, which is here. Yep, lovely jubbly. So the ambient, so you tweak that as you please. V to snap back. The objects I want to talk about a little bit more. These are obviously sort of vector files, but I included into the program just a nice little simple feature of hitting spacebar to generate a model. Show that again. So we've got spacebar, just popping up some blocks, nothing too interesting, just adding features. Splines. Now, I was fascinated at the time of programming this about Bezier curves and splines and such, so I programmed one in for my lighting source here. So if I hit 4 on the keyboard, he runs on a simple 3-point spline, which is like an arch, sort of in layman's terms. Where's he gone now? There he is, he's coming around. That is essentially the main point of the game. One of my favourite little features that I added in was called spooky mode. So if I hit F1, the point light even becomes really low. It's just a nice little added feature extra. We've still got that parallax mapping occurring, but it's super low and it's nice and scary. Right, so let's have a little look at some of the code, the coding structure, and the ooh, look at that skull just appearing off into the light. It's terrifying. Anyway, so this was all kind of quite, I don't want to say easy, but it wasn't particularly too difficult. The shader stuff was probably the hardest bit. However, I sort of overcame that with enough research. I bought a few books, Frank Luna's books on 3D programming with DirectX11. Really helped me overcome it, and also also helped me program Parallax Mapping into code. The next step would have been Parallax Occlusion Mapping, whereas I sort of ran out of time when this project needed to be submitted. So we can see on the right here my class structure is very simple, as you'd guess. The camera is its own class, we've got a graphics input, the lights, the window itself. We've got a main class which instantiates all that and runs it nicely within the DirectX11 window. And then of course we have our shader here, our FX file, and all our resource stuff going on there. Let me dive into the FX file a little bit. I'm not going to describe this too much because I don't want to waste anybody's time watching this video, but it's a very bog standard shader file towards the top, and as we dig deeper in, the more complex lighting structures, the diffuse, the ambient, the reflective lighting is all programmed in there. And further on down, of course, we have our techniques and our passes to do parallax mapping. So there's that. I hope you found this video interesting. Please, if you've got any questions about it, or would to try the project yourself, or would you like to know more about it, or any of the stuff that I've done, please drop me an email at ben.cadell@outlook.com. And have a great day.